Listen, she takes her turns like she's driving an 18-wheeler.
Oh, really?
Like,
Way wide.
Went out to New Mexico.
She's been with her dad.
On our way to
I made a vegetarian lasagna for dinner. I almost brought you a slice, complete with vegan cheese and everything.
Really?
How does that stuff not melt?
Oh, it's gross.
I figured that out.
They haven't figured out a way to make it good.
I was wondering if it was the brand I bought or if that's just how it is.
I mean, I have heard that
Ain't nothing but wide open.
someone made a
Prairie land, isn't there?
But I ain't see no prairie dog. They had something to stay away.
already liquid, and then you
It's not on burn there.
I only did it because Vern has like created like this dietary restriction with like dairy.
yeah.
So we can play like that's what I'm buying like
Taking a ship once you get to Alaska, you ain't driving all the way.
vegan, but if I do
all the
cheese,
way.
it's be like dairy free or lactose free.
95.
I'm curious to see if they like
What's the envelope?
Tires.
Put a new engine in it?
Clearly has 100,000.
Oh, yeah.
So I love when we do Chinese. We've been doing like the General Tso's tofu. That's my favorite. We just crave that. Like when she passed her driver's permit test on Saturday, so that was like our celebration. We thought we'd be doing tofu for.
If you drive straight,
Welcome back.
73 hours.
Good. How are you, Darren?
Good, good.
Mr. Donovan, I guess.
Yeah, I'm good with just Darren.
Christy, do you know who's kicking us off here? Is it going to be the band student?
I don't know if he'll move them first or not. He has Sight Logic, but I don't know if he wants to switch them around and get the students out of here.
Take good care of that pen.
I love this thing, man. I'm gonna keep pretty feeling it. Once the comes out. Yeah, I keep messing with it.
And then there's the high school.
Yeah, it's my official school.
I'll put some. We're gonna call.
Why was that strike? Yeah.
There you go, Steph. There's a coffee for you if you want it.
That's why we asked Jack.
Hello and welcome to the Shippensburg Area School District Committee of the Whole meeting. We're going to kick things off first by having the middle school battle of the brains, Mrs. Kirkpatrick's students.
Hello, I'm Amanda Kirkpatrick. I'm the gifted K-8 teacher in the district, and we were invited by the Chambersburg gifted teacher to go attend Battle of the Brains. We honestly had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, but I had 8 kids that said they would go, so we had 2 teams of 4. They were all 7th graders, and so one of the teams wanted to come and share with you tonight how they made out whenever they went.
Hi, my name is Cara. On March 22nd, 2024, myself and 7 of my classmates went to Chambersburg High School to participate in the Battle of the Brains. We competed against other middle school teams in events such as Challenge 24, Guess the Logo, Solve the Mystery, and more. There were 10 other middle school teams.
Hi, my name is Amelia. Our team, the Smarties, were recognized for their best teamwork in the breakout room, won first place in the Bridge Challenge, first place in the Eyewitness Station, and first place overall finish for the middle school division.
Hi, my name is Joel. Sam's Rubber Duckies was the other 7th grade team that went with us, and they placed first in the 24 challenge and first in the breakout room, where they broke out in the fastest amount of time.
Hi, my name is Kimmy. One of my favorites was the River Cross Station because everyone had a part, and the pressure of trying not to make a mistake will help me in future situations as I get older.
My favorite challenge was the escape room because it involved teamwork and puzzle solving, and I felt very accomplished once we broke out.
My favorite station was the Eyewitness Station because we had to use logic to determine who did the crime, and and not all the evidence was correct, so that was really fun.
My favorite station was a bridge building challenge where we got to make a bridge out of one piece of paper to hold as many pennies as we could. And I thought it was fun because I had done something like it before, so it was fun to try and make something similar, but that would work better.
Thank you for letting us share our experiences at Battle of the Brains. It was a fun and challenging experience, and we hope Shippensburg students can continue to participate in the future. Do you have any questions for us?
Will you be invited back since you won first place in so many things?
She said next year, Ms. Kirkpatrick said that next year she might invite the elementary school team as well.
So I really love your T-shirts, and I wondered if you brought other T-shirts that maybe said "Dum Dums" for the other teams.
No, we're good sportsmen.
Better than me, I guess.
Can you talk a little bit about how the structure of the day worked and just the logistics of it?
So we each got a car that had certain stations and like our order that we do them, and then we at first we go to the first station, and then the person would go this big loudspeaker and say everyone switch to their next station, then we'd switch to our next station, and then we'd rotate around, and one of the stations was a snack break, and we had lunch at the end, and then the award ceremonies afterwards.
So where was it located?
It was in the Chambersburg Senior High School.
Any other questions from the board? How many total students participated? Was it just you four, or were there more?
From this school, there are 8. There's 2 different teams, and I'm not sure about the other schools because there's a lot from other schools, mainly elementary. Yeah, I think there's 10 other teams, so maybe 40.
They invited us to be able to take 4 teams. I didn't take 4 just because I didn't know what it entailed. But if they ask us to take 4 next year, we'll take 2 middle school and 2 elementary school teams.
Okay, thank you.
So what did the prep look like leading up to this?
We practiced the 24 game because that's all we really knew about it. Besides, yeah, the rest of was a surprise.
And I believe there's a 24 challenge coming up with the 7th grade. Are you all participating in that, or?
It's a whole other team.
Whole nother team. Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Congratulations on doing so well.
Thanks. Thanks for making us proud. If we could have the band representatives come forward. No, it's tight back here. Oh. So, hello. My name is Mr. Fike. I'm the band director and the orchestra director here at the high school, as long as the music teacher down at Nancy Grayson. Some of you might not know me, so I just thought I'd introduce myself. Hi. These are my students. Some of them are in band, some are in choir. When I got tasked with the job over the summer, one of the first questions I got asked when I walked through the door and accepted it was, "Where's the band trip? We haven't had one in so long." So I made sure that I got forward, planned one out. I gave them options. As soon as I said the word cruise ship, this was my face that I had. It was really great to see it. So we got to perform on the ship. We got all sorts of stuff. There we go. So that was the picture that I took of our ship. It was really pretty all night. It was one of the first times I got to go experience it. I just want to thank you guys for letting us do that with our students. The trip started with us leaving Sashes at 3 o'clock, taking an overnight bus, going all the way down to Florida, stopping at Buc-ee's on the way. It was a really grand time. It made me realize how old I am. And then we got down there. We performed on the cruise ship. We got to perform in a nice theater. They were very welcoming. The kids got to experience everything along the way of how to perform somewhere else that's not our auditorium. And then on our way out, we got to go to Universal Studios and then get on another 13-hour bus ride and drive home. And I actually realized how old I was. But I'm not here to really talk because I want to let them do the talking because they were the ones that had the fun. So first up, I'd like to welcome Lily Tatstup.
So, hi, my name is Lily Tats. I'm in 11th grade. I play the flute and piccolo in the marching band. So, since I'm a junior, all my other music department trips were canceled due to COVID, and so this was my first real music department trip. So not only is it my first, it's also my last, and it was like a really great experience that I got to hang out with all my friends and Mr. Fike and get to play my flute in the Bahamas, so that was really cool. I also got to try escargot. Don't recommend it. It was not good. There's also a gentleman me and Haley got to meet in the Coach store that was on the ship, and he was like, oh, like, welcome to Royal Caribbean, and he was really nice. I also like to think that all the chaperones who came with us, because, I mean, that's a big to-do. It's a lot of money, a lot of time, and we all came together for the music program, which was really nice to see how many people actually, like, want to support us. Oh, yeah, so the picture down below with the breadstick is my escargot, and it was really not good. I really didn't like it. And then there's me and Haley. We're walking on the boat, so we're like outside, and then the sunset and like the inside of the cruise.
Hi, my name's Haley Swartz. I'm also in 11th grade, and I play the clarinet. And I wanted to start off by saying thank you to all of you for making this trip possible, because it's something I thought I'd never get to experience. Like she was saying, all of our other band trips were canceled, and I knew this was like my last time I'd ever get to do one, because I'm graduating next year. And so it was a really cool experience. There wasn't one time on the trip where I was bored. Like, there was so much to do on the boat. Honestly, we didn't even get to do everything we wanted, especially on the private island. Like, we just sat on the beach all day, and like we were living it up. It was so fun. It was really nice to get to perform somewhere other than our auditorium. Like, how many people can say they've performed on a boat? Like, that's crazy. Like, it was a really cool experience, and I'm glad I got to experience it with all my friends. That's all I got. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Julia Rhodes. I'd like to thank all of you for making this happen once again. For Mr. Fike for, always being there for us, and, it's just been such an awesome experience. My favorite part of this trip was like snorkeling and going to Coco Cay. Such a blast. The chaperones also, thank you for watching our stuff while we went to go swim and snorkel and have a blast. There's more pictures on the next slide. So, we met this really cool waiter named David, sorry. And he was just like the best waiter in the whole world. We loved him so much. He was just so great. That's my girl Jo. Love her. She's great. And yeah, thank you guys so much.
Hey, my name's Cole Goodhart, and I'm also a junior. I play alto saxophone, and I'd also like to thank you guys for allowing us to go on this trip. And since it was my only one, I figured it was such a great experience to be on. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. It was pretty neat performing in a space that was not the high school auditorium or somewhere else around here. It was pretty cool. And the other experiences on the trip, there were so many great things that we could do. And I'm so glad that this was my band trip that I'll get to go on. And thank you.
My name is Zachary Barber. I'm a senior. I'm part of the band and choir for the trip. This was by far one of the most unique experiences I've ever had, especially with my love for music. To experience playing internationally was something I never really thought that I would do. So thank you all for making that happen. Got to visit a lot of new places, especially the Bahamas, and strengthen our friendships while we were together on the boat. We performed while docked in Nassau in Studio B, so I mean, what other high schooler can really say, oh, I played in the Bahamas, We did get to celebrate a lot of birthdays with our friends while we were there, which was really nice to celebrate together as friends. We celebrated London Shoemaker's 16th birthday at dinner. We celebrated Alex Smelt's 18th birthday on the bus ride to Universal. And then we celebrated Mr. Fike's birthday by singing to him at midnight inside of Buc-ee's on Tuesday morning. So, thank you all for making that happen.
Hello, I'm Alexander Smeltz. I am a senior. I'd say the music department trip, while my only, was definitely the best trip. I've enjoyed going on the cruise so much. There's a little garden area on the cruise that I remember walking on all the time, and I took a picture of it because it was right after like a rainy time in the area we were in, so everything was much more dim and calm. There weren't as many people out, so I could actually take my time walking through. And playing on a boat, I never thought I'd have the chance to do that, and this was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had with the band. So I'm thankful that you guys were able to let us do this.
That's it. But seriously, thank you guys. When I started here, I wasn't sure how this was going to be possible, and it's like less than a year. So thank you for letting us do that. They had a great time. I had a great time. It was a cool experience for me. It was my first time taking a group on a trip, and it was just neat. So if you have questions for them, go ahead and berate them, because they can ask questions about sitting on a beach on a school day.
How long was the cruise?
You answer. Go. Go. How long was the cruise?
About a week. It was really.
It was 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days. Sorry. It felt like a week. It actually felt like a week. It was so good.
The trip was from March 7th to March 12th. We left that Thursday. We were on the cruise. We got on the cruise Friday, and we were on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then got off the boat Monday morning, and then went to Universal. And Tuesday we came out.
Was the Bahamas the only place you stopped?
We stopped at. We stopped at Nassau, Bahamas, and then Royal Caribbean's private island, Coco Cay, which is also, I think, part of the Bahamas. Yeah. But like it wasn't, like it was just for people on the boat. So I think there were 2 boats docked. So, like, I mean, it was kind of crowded because everybody got off, but like it wasn't as bad as the Bahamas with the amount of people that were there.
How many total students and adults went?
87.
And everyone made it back?
Well, we left with 80 now. I'm just kidding.
How'd you like Buc-ee's?
At midnight when they were singing to me, not as much. But yeah, you guys like Buc-ee's?
Yes, I love it.
Well, I just want to say that I'm super thankful that you all came to share your experience. I'm elated that you guys had the opportunity to go. I think that this is probably the first out-of-country trip, like band trip. Like, that's super exciting. I was following along. Like, I'm so happy that you're here sharing this, because I was following along with Mrs. Wolfinger's live updates. So when you guys were playing on the cruise ship, I actually got to see you play, and you sounded great. But thank you for being here and sharing.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you thanking us, but I think all we did was like vote once to approve. And so I want to so 2 things, like huge props to the chaperones. That's a lot of chaperoning for a lot of people. And then, yeah, let's clap for that.
Good job, Isaac.
And then, Mr. Fike, this is your first year. What are you going to do? How do you top this?
I think we're going to have to go to space next time. Intergalactic band.
And so, just really quick, I'm just interested, the logistics of getting 87 people, their luggage, and instruments. Can you talk a little bit about how that was managed?
So we worked with Notable Student Travel. They're a wonderful company to work with. They're based out of Mechanicsburg, and our boosters did a great job as well of moving all of our equipment. So Notable got all of our students down there, arranged all the transportation, and our boosters took care of all the equipment and making sure that we had everything we needed once we got there. I don't know, they made it so smooth. I feel like I don't have many answers for you because they answered them all for me. Larissa was wonderful to work with the whole way down.
Yeah, and I would just, again, echo the kudos and thanks to everyone that brought this together. This, from the fundraising side to the sign-up side to making all the schedules work to coordinating everything. It was a Herculean task to get down there, but it sounds like it was worth it, and this is a high school memory that you will carry with you forever, and an experience that you'll cherish. So, kudos to everyone involved. Thank you.
So, 87 people, right?
Yep.
So, as Mr. August said, that's to me is incredible because I know how difficult it is to pack up my wife and 2 kids to go on a trip. And the fact that you all were able to make that work with 87 people is amazing. And again, 2 people have already said it, but I'm so glad that you all got to experience the trip. Like when I first got on the school board, it was when band trips weren't happening. And I heard from so many people that were upset that it wasn't happening. So I'm so happy now that it was able to happen, especially for your upperclassmen, that you got to have this trip and experience that you'll be able to remember the rest of your lives. And then also, thank you to the Booster Club, the band, because I know how much work went into the fundraising aspect of all of that. And again, all the parents that helped out. You kids will remember that for the rest of your life. So I'm glad you had a great trip.
Can I just say one last thing before we go? I know you had said that you just voted on it, but it's not just this trip that I'm thanking you for. Thank you for supporting our kids the entire way through because they start band in 5th grade and they go all the way through, and it's without the board's support, this wouldn't happen. So I want to thank you for all the support that you've given them along the way, not just for voting yes for a trip, which thank you for that too, but voting to support them and everything that you've done for us as a whole.
Thank you, guys. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Melissa Kolstock from Site Logic. So as we move forward with a number of facility initiatives, and I'll just say to everyone, your student groups don't feel like you have to stay because this isn't going to be as exciting as your trip. So if you want to take a minute, no offense, Melissa, but a cruise is a little tough to
follow.
Right.
Yeah, I won't be able to follow them.
So as we move forward with our facilities, we have we're addressing a lot of things. We're making a lot of progress. We're recently got some good news over the weekend. Things are happening. We're looking for those resources that help us get as much as we can and address as much as we're able to. So the state has come out with a facilities improvement grant that we are hopefully going to be applying for. It is on tonight's agenda, but I invited Melissa, and she, I think, half volunteered to come. I'm sorry, Melissa, to share the thought process and how this grant works and what we hope to achieve with it. So, Melissa, take it away, please.
Thank you, Mr. August. So I've provided just a couple of resources to guide our discussion today, and also just for you to reflect on afterwards if you have questions. One of the pieces that is included within your folder is the program guidelines for the grant. We will just touch on them very briefly tonight, but I provided them in detail for you so you can review them. I've provided a copy of the resolution that you're considering this evening and discussing this evening. That is a requirement of the grant application. And then in addition to that is the resource material that we pulled from this study to help you apply for the grant. So just at a very high level, this public school facility grant program was developed by DCED, the same group who administers the Multimodal Transportation Fund that you were just awarded. And it was dedicated towards funding facility maintenance projects. This is brand new. First year that this has been out, first year that districts are eligible to apply. and we want to take the opportunity for Shippensburg to be able to do that. Grant funding awards are up to $5 million and require only a 25% match from school districts. So a total project cannot be less than $500,000, and a district would be responsible for 25% of whatever project you're submitting for. Projects will be funded in 2024. The award timeline is roughly around July 1st of this year. Now we know that in the past, sometimes those award timelines don't always line up with what is published within their guidelines. So we expect maybe that award notification for applicants will come a little bit later. And the district has actually already completed many of the required items for your application just by having conducted a facility study within the last few years. So you have recent information on the condition of your facilities. Works very well within the application timeline. Some of the details for the grant is that the application period was opened March 1st. It now closes May 31st. So that is considered a very tight application window, which is why I'm here tonight helping you understand a little bit more about this grant. The eligible project costs are a variety of different scopes of work, but really it's things like roofs, HVAC improvements, energy improvements, some security, safety, typical facility maintenance items that any district would incur over the year. We can see that some of the eligible project costs also can include some construction, engineering, design, administrative costs. Those costs have to be incurred after the award. This can't be any of your development costs with an architect or engineer. And DCED is allowing districts who submit, there's kind of two paths. You can submit a single scope on multiple buildings, or you could look at one facility and address many needs. And it is kind of that former approach that we're looking at for your application. We think it's kind of the strongest application going forward is to look at only one facility. This is, at a high level, what we think would be a really strong application for Shippensburg. By focusing on Jamesburg Elementary School and facility improvements that are targeted towards the building envelope, kind of comfortably puts the district in a place where you are able to check off as many of those facility improvement measures that are eligible scopes of work within the application. The total project cost is right around $2.3 million. So the district's 25% match would be $575,000. If we look at the Jamesburg facility maintenance list, this was updated recently, as recently as the last month or so with Daryl, making sure that scopes of work are current and that he hasn't addressed anything in the past year. What he's noted is that there are specifically under that building envelope scope, 2 that he had already prioritized for the next 2 years. The biggest one really being the roof replacement at Jamesburg. So what we were hoping to address with the application is putting Jamesburg in a very similar space that Nancy Grayson is in. Nancy Grayson had the roof replaced, I think, within the last 5 years. Jamesburg was the next building to have the same scope of work. And so we're just kind of taking the lead from the district's strategic plan and seeing if maybe we can generate a little bit of grant money to go towards that scope of work. So I'll pause for any questions.
Is this run by the same political figures that were involved in the intermodal?
It's slightly different. So this is actually through CFA, Commonwealth Financing Authority. So it's a bipartisan group that will oversee the actual award of the applications. And they have to be all in alignment and agreement before any application award is made.
I think, not to maybe piggyback off Mr. Noggle, are we going to have to contact our local representatives similarly or not?
It's not a requirement of the grant the same way it was for the Multimodal Transportation Fund, but it certainly would help to bolster the application.
Do you have names of the folks that are on this?
I don't know if they're listed within the guidelines, but I absolutely can provide that information to you. I don't think they have it. This is more just the program guidelines, but I can certainly make sure that you get the CFA. Yeah. Yep.
So this seems like an obvious and smart and convenient little package here, but of course I was, struck by the numbers, right? That these grants are going to be awarded between $500,000 and $5 million, and so I'm thinking, well, why not $5 million, right? And this is only half of that, so I'm wondering if there's maybe the timeline doesn't allow for it, but is there the opportunity to expand the scope in a rational way to maximize the potential for grant?
You could certainly, yeah. If you take a look at the rest of the facility improvement measures that are specific to James Byrd, you can see that they total just over, $4 million that we've identified. I think really the question would be, Dr. Goetz, is what is the district's match? What are you comfortable matching with your 25%? Is it over and above the 525? How much is the district willing? And then we can kind of reverse engineer the grant allocation on the application.
I'm pretty, I don't want to speak for others, but I'm pretty sure that if you told us we were able to get, $3.75 million by investing in $1.25 million, that all the hands would go up. I guess I'm just wondering, we have on the horizon the idea of adding additional classrooms perhaps to our elementary schools, and I'm wondering if it doesn't make sense to include, that within the scope of work. I don't remember what the cost was for 4 classrooms at James Byrd, but it seems like that was one of the plans that was on the table.
Can we do new construction with this?
New construction is not permissible under this grant. It's purely focused on existing. But the approach that you're taking is to ready your existing facilities for any potential new additions. That is, what every, district decision makes whenever you're considering new additions.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Yeah, sorry. So you're essentially addressing the needs within your existing facility prior to making any additions to it. If you were to pursue a greater scope of work at James Byrd Elementary School.
Okay, so the additions would not be eligible for the grant, is what you're saying, but
new additions are not eligible.
Okay, right. But I missed that.
Any number of facility improvements, maintenance scopes are.
We could prep mechanicals and electric.
Yes. Mechanical, electrical, there's, I think, 20 eligible scopes of work, and it's all related to energy savings, building envelope, some site. There's even an accommodation for any emergencies that a district would have to apply for. So a lot of flexibility with this. I think the only thing is that you have to remember you can either do one scope at one building, one scope of work at as many facilities as possible, or only address many needs at one building. So that's just a little bit of the dynamic of this. I will say this, because this is the first year, we know that it's going to be very popular for school districts. However, we strongly encourage and recommend this district to every year that this grant is available to apply for it. This should be something that you start doing annually because there's there's a lot of needs within school districts, and this is a great opportunity to help kind of offset.
So thinking strategically about the grant, I'm wondering if there's some sense of applying for, say, this particular package might make our grant proposal a little more attractive than if we were to try to, sort of maximize the grant monies by extending it. I mean, do you have any sense of that? Like, what would be more like? I mean, because clearly I would be more, if there's a higher likelihood of this and a lower likelihood of something that's more, I would go for the one that's has a higher likelihood of success.
So with it being the first year, we can't really judge how they would typically view this. I would suspect that they might consider the number of applicants and maybe try to make sure everybody has a little bit. So what we were able to do with the scope of work that we've outlined for James Byrd is provide a project that is scalable, which means that we said, okay, best case scenario, we can do your entire building envelope. That's really great because we're touching your roof, windows, exterior masonry. We're looking at your storefront. We're kind of touching all of the exterior skin of the building. If you don't get the full allocation, that's okay because we know there are certain pieces to that we would be able to address in its entirety through whatever you're awarded. And we can kind of build on that over time, either with the district through regular planned facility maintenance or year over year by applying for this grant. So we kind of took like a mid-range approach to say, look, this is kind of a comfortable, middle of the road application. You're getting a lot for this. And it fits comfortably within, the grant qualifications. But if you would like to add to it, there's certainly HVAC needs, there's lighting, some electrical, there's needs beyond what we've identified here. But this is what I would say is a clean application.
Thanks.
With the exterior.
You may have to turn it on, Mr. Scott. I had to turn mine on.
There we go. That's for $5,000. Is that $5,490? $5,400. That one. Could we put something else that's a little higher in that program? And that kind of money, I think we could handle. But there's some.
Yes, absolutely. We just kind of threw it in because it was like, well, we're kind of touching everything else. We might as well put this in. But we can certainly take that out and supplement it with a separate scope of work.
Yeah, I don't. That's why I look at $5,000. We can afford to pay for that within house. I would put that in the grant. There's other things I would like to see in the grant process.
Where would what budget year would our match land in? Would that be this budget or next year, or where would it land?
It's my understanding it would be next year's budget.
Correct, 2025.
And I think what we're thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. August, is that the James Byrd roof, we were going to take that out of future capital projects in the assigned fund balance, which was about $1.2 million. So we could shift that money towards the match of $575,000, which wouldn't leave more in fund balance for future capital projects.
So the thinking, I think, when we were putting this together was, this is an obvious no-brainer for us to at least get the James Byrd roof, which was already on the list, at a discounted price. I think we were being conservative with the pool from fund balance, given the budget that's on the table, not wanting and knowing that this grant is coming around, for the foreseeable future, that we can get a lot of bang for our buck that way, and preserve some of that fund balance for emergencies that may not come up here. Certainly, and that's why I asked Melissa to come, was to get the board's sense of, okay, do we want to add more to this? It's certainly, anytime you can get a 75% discount on stuff, you probably want to do it. It's just a matter of how far do we want to push that needle? And in our talks, we kind of were shooting for the hey, we aren't trying to be too grasping here. Why don't you just fund us completely? That's at least our hope.
So it sounds like if we went for the full 5 million, that would completely deplete that chunk of the fund balance that we were talking about, right?
It would definitely hammer that
So
pretty
we would
hard.
lose, in spite of, I mean, we're not getting as much grant money, but we're also losing a little bit of flexibility because we no longer have that chunk of fund balance. Was that kind of your thinking?
Right.
Okay.
So to preserve fund balance where we can as we navigate, what we have in front of us, knowing again, like this isn't a one-shot deal, like it's coming back around.
Do we have a printout like this for Nancy Grayson as well? Are there any assets that are in the alert status?
Yes.
Building?
Nancy Grayson's list is a little bit shorter because I think previously it had been in worse condition, so that was addressed earlier. So now, it's, but I certainly can provide that to you as provided as part of our study. And there should be an electronic version of that available for board members. If you need me to resend the link, I could certainly resend it.
So just to clarify, so when you say we could do like, you have fancier words for this, but one thing at a bunch of schools, or so is that like new air conditioning across like the whole district? Is that what you're saying? It could only be one specific thing?
Yes, but new air conditioning is not a good example. It has to be existing conditions, right? So it would be addressing current infrastructure and
But it has to be a similar project.
the same scope.
Okay. We had talked about windows, so like the window needs at almost every building, so that would be, we get windows, but then James Bird's roof is still an issue.
Yeah. No, this seems to make sense. I was just trying to understand the two options.
Yeah, I know. I wish that we could tweak it a little bit because we talk about interconnected scope, right? Sometimes when you do windows, you also want to do doors. And if you do doors, you also want to do windows and the exterior mason. It all kind of grows because it's interconnected systems, especially the exterior building envelope. But it seems through our discussions that maybe a consolidated approach to James Bird would be a good starting point. And then, in future years, we can look at looking across the district for similar needs.
And Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong. This is the 300 million that the governor set aside. Is that the number 300 million? Or am I wrong?
I think you're right. Just because you put me on the spot right now, I'm questioning.
No, like I'm trying to, and the only reason why I say that is I know we were saying about being conservative. If you take that 300 million and say every district in Pennsylvania applied for this, the 500 districts, and they divvied it out evenly, we'd only get 600,000. So if you go to the max, maybe there's a chance that
I will
we
say
won't
though,
get funded.
not every school district has met kind of the preliminary requirements to even apply for it, right? So we talked about making sure that you have a comprehensive facility assessment, and you have to prove that. So part of the application, we will be submitting your facility study to show the level of effort this district has gone through to make sure they understand where their facility conditions lie throughout the district. So again, you're ahead of the curve, which is why I have a lot of enthusiasm for this application.
And like board members, now would be a good time, if there is energy to say, hey, let's go for something bigger, or like this would be the time to kind of, let administration and Site Logic know, like, okay, let's go a little bit bigger. This is kind of what we sat in a room and thought made the most sense, with the understanding that we were going to bring it to you to kind of get your input.
For me, the right above that, replace entry doors. That's a lot of money, but what kind of condition are our entry doors in?
It's hard to hear you, Mr.
What kind of condition are our entry doors in?
What kind of condition? So the way that we look at that, if you look to the right of that line item, it says asset condition, right? So it's caution. When we say caution, here's kind of this description of a caution phase for your asset condition. It means that it is approaching its life expectancy. It still works, but maybe it is out of code compliance for some reason. Maybe there are some functional issues to it. Maybe it's not meeting the requirements of the safety and security. You know, it's kind of pinging a lot of things that would require it to be slated for replacement in the future. So age and condition is one thing, but also, you know, code compliance, safety, accessibility, those are also other concerns.
You know, I can't put you on the spot now, Darren, but when you say in the future, it's the future.
So when we were prioritizing all of the district facility improvement measures, it was a consideration for what would be considered a project for the immediate future, what is a scope of work the district would consider undertaking itself, and what's something that maybe could be deferred until the future. So we would say probably within the next 5 to 10 years. Well, believe it or not, this study is almost 5 years old. And you know, now is a good time to restart that conversation. We took the first stab at kind of reprioritizing the needs specifically at James Byrd based on the conversation that we're having with about the grant application. So, I mean, you could see a lot of the work was deferred until the future, but the roof and the masonry restoration has been through your facilities department prioritized for the next year, 2024, 2025.
Okay. For me, the replacement of door entry is very important. That's security for our kids and people coming in and out. So if we can talk about 5 years down the road, I'm more comfortable, but I haven't heard that. So
Yeah,
I trade that out.
Yeah, so that scope of work for addressing the replacing the entry doors in the original construction, that is to look at creating a secure vestibule, right? Because right now it's we like to see that man trap, almost that 2-door system, and I don't think that exists at James Byrd. So that's what this scope would address is security and obviously new controls and things like that.
You asked what we got. For me, that's important. The doors entry to in and out the buildings is important to me.
So does this mean like there's an option for $5 million with a 25% match every year?
Yes, unless they change the terms of the program, but
for the foreseeable future, this is like a reality.
Yes.
And we should be doing this every year for as long as the legislature gives us this opportunity.
Yeah, and just a little bit of background. Why is the state so heavily focused on facility improvement is because PlanCon is in a moratorium, like forever. It's not getting funded. So the reaction now is we are going to focus on helping districts find opportunities to improving their facilities, right? Before it was focused on building new, but now we're focused on facility improvement, asset protection like you're doing here, and at the middle school, and then investing in facility maintenance and finding funds to help offset that.
So Mr. Donovan asked like about Nancy Grayson and understood, I get that. How, and this is a little different, but also as to this, like if we look forward, like every year we should go back and do this in some way, shape, or form. How does G Blues fit into that?
G Blues facilities is the university.
That's okay. That was what I thought. I just was thinking as we think about every building that we don't.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
So then, do we have thoughts about like what's next? I know you've just done one, but
No, we've actually done, so we took the first, working with Daryl, we went through the entire district, right? I said, look, we have to update this. We need to know what your priorities are, what you're discussing as far as your strategic plan for your facilities, so we can help. When you come to us and say, how much does this cost? We can say, this is how much it costs, and you can start to plan and budget for it. Love to come and present that at a later date, or maybe next year when you're considering, district-wide scope. But yeah.
Yeah. So it seems to make sense that we should have a plan for our $5 million ongoing off into the future. just so we're well prepared and ready to get free money.
Yes, that does make good
Nearly free money.
Yes.
So are there other needs for this grant that we want to add to change the numbers, because it's kind of on for discussion with these numbers? Are we okay to tweak it, or?
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly, you could just swap out the 2.3 for 5 million.
Well, I meant,
And-
in terms of like Mr. Scott and the doors, for 369,000.
Aren't the doors in the?
The doors are in here, yeah. I
Right.
think if you are truly considering $5 million and your match at, just over $1 million, what we would do, we would build off of what you're seeing here on this list. And there's certain scope that we could expand even further. For instance, we were recommending replace windows in original construction. That's from 1960. And what we would say is, let's do all of the windows. We would look at the scope of work and then make sure that we're kind of touching as much of the building as possible.
Fred, to answer your question, and I had to relook it even though I was working on the plan, those doors are in this already. So that line item you're looking at, replace entry doors, that's in this grant.
That's part of the 2.3.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have stated the obvious. Everything that I've highlighted in that red box under building envelope, that is the scope that we will be submitting
It's not just the alert.
for the 2.3.
It's not the alert the whole way.
Yeah, it's everything under that. Yeah, I'm so sorry, Mr. Scott. I thought that you were just asking a question specifically about those doors. I apologize.
That's okay.
So they're in there, and that's,
All right.
would,
I'm good with that then.
So, what you're asking from us is, do we want to add anything to the red box?
add or delete.
Add or delete.
So
if-
prioritizing that. We've already kind of sat down and talked to Daryl, talked to Site Logic, talked with administration, the financial side to kind of get us here. It's really just a question is, does this work for the board, or is there more or less that they would like to do with this grant?
And I will say, you can just make a decision based on finances, and then we can address kind of the difference in the scope afterwards. We don't need you to decide on the exact scope tonight. We just need a dollar amount to input into the resolution if it's different from the $2.3 million that we've.
Because remember, we were planning on pulling, correct? We were planning on pulling that 1.2 out of fund balance to do this work. I guess maybe that's the binary decision. Do we want to go to that 1.2 since we had already planned on that, or do we want to play it a little more conservative coming out of this budget season?
As well as just, we're going to be going for a bond borrow in the next month. And so we will have to go through a credit rating call. And, if I can say we're backing down, pulling out of fund balance, that will be in our favor through the bond rating call. More fund balance we use, that's where our bond rating could go down.
So I'm kind of repeating myself, but it seems like the three of you have gone through and feel like using about half of that fund balance, not the whole fund, but that chunk of the fund balance that we've reserved, gives us a little more flexibility, but still gets us $2.3 million in the red box.
Right, it gets us $1 million more than we were
Right.
we were banking on.
So
we're planning
I'm
on spending.
comfortable with that. I don't.
What would be the next thing that Daryl would recommend outside of that box?
So if we go to the very next section, which is electrical, and it's that lighting option 1, he has, under his comments on the very far right, I've captured the comments, he's looking at doing the classrooms only. I think there's T8 in there. The energy savings alone would be substantial, just by replacing and updating to LED tube. So that would kind of be the next thing. Beyond that, I would say, depending on the dollar amount the district would like to pursue under this grant. You would absolutely want to start looking at things like your mechanical, plumbing, some of the infrastructure items that you had considered within this building and the middle school projects. You have a lot of rooftop units that are, I think you have 36 rooftop units on James Byrd. We want to start addressing those as well. And then any additional safety, security, that you'd like to see.
It seems like if these are things we're going to want to get done in the future construction phases that we'd be taking the bonds out for would be not be farther ahead, getting as much as we can get done and pay a quarter of the cost. And it probably doesn't work, but because it's construction, can you not use then the bond money to pay the 25%? So you're getting 3 times the work done for the same bond money. You'd be paying the 25%. Then it's not coming out of the fund balance. But you're still getting everything we want in the future construction.
Sure. We've got to get through our the big projects that we have now. Obviously, it's everyone's desire to turn our attention then to the elementaries, where we can start kind of divvying up which one should be in a project and which one can be through this grant, and how to do that the smartest possible way, I think.
Just if we want to use bond money, we'll need to talk with PFM, because we may get in the spot where we start having to pay for this and we don't have the money borrowed, and we're going to have a resolution on file to be able to reimburse ourselves. So we don't want to forget that step if you want to pay for it out of bond money.
That's my question. Are we going to match this money out of bond, or are we going to match this money out of fund balance?
Currently, the plan is fund balance, Fred.
Fund balance, yeah. So the rating on the bond should not have no effect on this.
Well, so the and Chrissy, you can jump in. So our credit evaluators are going to look at the size of our fund balance, and the healthier that is, the better rating they're going to give us. So it's this kind of like tiptoe on the line of how much do we want to pull down that isn't going to maybe move us down in a rating, but still gets us the stuff that we need to address at a discount price.
Are we in that close a narrow thing that if we draw down on a bond, that it would affect our credit rating that bad?
I don't know if anybody can tell us what that range is. I just know PFM says the more you draw down your fund balance, the better chance there is that your bond rating could go down, which means then you're going to pay higher interest rates, and then you can borrow less.
Same thing as our fund balance goes up. We keep putting more money in fund balance, more money in the fund balance.
That's a good thing, and that would keep your credit rating high. That's one factor that they look at.
But for me, what is my credit rating if I can't buy nothing?
Say that again, Fred.
What does my credit rating mean if I can't buy anything? Saying to build up the fund balance, but if I'm afraid to take anything out, what do I accomplish?
So by maintaining a healthy fund balance, that's one thing that the creditors look at when we go to borrow. If we kind of start depleting that fund balance and they decrease our bond rating, that means we're going to pay a higher interest rate on the bonds, which means then we're going to be able to borrow less in the future for projects.
Where's the stopping point of the fund balance? I don't want to put so much money in the fund balance that we can't do we're afraid to do anything.
It is a bit of 6-1. It is 6-1, half dozen the other. Fred, you have to have money in the bank to show that you don't need to borrow. It's kind of it is similar to maybe personal finances.
Yes.
The people who have good credit ratings and lots of savings get better rates and can borrow more money. So the district's not that different in that we want to be able to show that we're financially stable and sound, so that we're able to get the highest borrow that we can we need at the best possible interest rate. So I think to that point, spending down our fund balance is going to make our interest rate go up, and that means we're going to get less bang for our buck on the borrow.
Well, where's the finish line? You get $800 credit rating, good gold. Where are we at? All I keep since I've been on this board, we just increase the fund balance. Every time I hear something, they're scared to spend money. I want to know, is there a definite line on the fund balance? Or we're going to keep on, I was on 12 when it started, now we're 16, from my understanding.
So Fred, I think this budget is definitely gonna eat into that fund balance.
Okay.
So it's not a matter of getting through ESSERS, and dealing with our student population growth. Like, our fund balance is going to take a hit, this budget cycle, which is why part of the reason why we're trying to be conservative a little bit on this first time out. I did some quick math. I was a social studies teacher, so I hope these numbers are right. But I believe if we were to put the lights in this project, our spend would be $168,000. So we could get lights for about $45,000 at Bird. Hopefully my math's right. So again, that's why we're here, to have this discussion, to talk through it. That's something we want to do. It is a little bit, it tips us over $600,000 out of our fund balance. It's about half of what we were originally planning on spending to fix James Bird's roof.
I fully support. I have no problem with this here. I hear the bond thing, and we had to have a certain thing. I just wonder, where's the cutoff line at the bond with fund balance? Where do we get? Where do we get 18 million? Is that where we'd be safe at? 20 million we'd be safe?
So I think we're not headed in a spot right now where our fund balance is going to be increasing, Fred.
No, excuse me. But we don't know what the state's going to give us, do we?
So we have a good idea. We're taking an educated guess of what percentage of the governor's budget. If there's additional monies, I think we're probably not counting on them, out of the lawsuit.
We're counting 30% of that adequacy adjustment.
So where would that money go? After we pass the budget, then we get the statement.
So the budget that's on the table today is a deficit budget. So that money would be used to
back in fund balance.
Would be to lower that deficit, hopefully get rid of it. I would be shocked if we were able to I would be pleased if we were able to balance the budget coming out with additional monies from the state, and minimize our draw out of our fund balance. Like, that's best case scenario, I think, in this cycle for us. Anything towards building the fund balance this particular budget, and maybe even the next one, is going to be tough, as our revenues have to catch up to our expenses.
Okay.
So just to clarify, from the April 8th meeting, I had presented the proposed final budget and putting in $200 million of the basic education funding, $50 million of the special education funding, and 30% of the adequacy investment. If we raise taxes to the index, we're looking at a deficit of about $3.5 million. If we don't raise taxes at all, we're looking at a deficit of $6.5 million. If we would have got 100% of that adequacy adjustment, it was $1.8 million. So even if we got 100% of the governor's budget, we won't cover our deficit.
So every time we hire somebody, it'll affect our deficit?
Just so if we do this proposal and we spend the 575, that leaves about 575 if we want to do this next year. So we could do this yet again next year without having to do a borrow or anything like that. We have money in fund balance to do another project next year, ideally.
I would say ideally is the word to to emphasize.
Can we get a comparison of, if we went all in for the 5 million, what we would owe 1.25 to match that? Can we get a comparison to what that would do to our fund balance versus going with this building envelope, just to see the difference and get an idea if we think that will affect our credit borrowing, and just get an idea on that?
To Christy on that.
I mean, I can put some numbers together. It's like we said, it's about a savings of half that we're not pulling out of fund balance if you don't go the $5 million grant.
What's your gut instinct on what fund balance we should carry? Swag.
I don't. Let me do some research and I can get back to you on that. But I don't have a number off the top of my head to tell you. I just know when you compare us to other school districts, you have to remember other school districts usually have a nice, healthy capital reserve fund, and we have $250,000 in our capital reserve fund. So we're kind of using our general fund balance for these projects.
We've talked about that. Are we changing it, or do we need to change it? I mean, we talked about, you told us this before. Are we changing the capital fund?
The only way to do that would be to set aside money in the general fund budget. So you'd have a line item in there, which is going to increase your expenses. To say if you wanted to set $500,000 or $250,000 aside every year to transfer over into capital reserve, you can do that. But it's going to increase our expenses. And we're already in a deficit budget. So it's kind of hard to save money when we're in a deficit budget.
We're always going to be in a deficit. In a deficit ever since I've been up. This is my 5th year. It's always been a deficit before that. You envision us ever not having a deficit?
I don't know, Fred. I don't have that crystal ball.
So for the sake of just kind of to see where everybody is, we're going to do kind of a round robin because it is on the discussion agenda, just to see, are we comfortable with this? Because it's going to be coming up for a vote, at the next meeting. So,
And I would just, before we do this, I just want to thank Melissa and SiteLogic. The board needs to understand SiteLogic is doing this, pro bono. This is something that a service they offer. And frankly, I'm not sure we could have gotten it without their help. I'm very, very appreciative of your time and your effort in helping us write and get this grant. So thank you.
thank you. Mr. Scott?
The square? What's in the square?
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
Yes.
Dr. Gibbs?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. Me too.
Mr. Donovan?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so that's great because, as Melissa said, this is a very, very tight window, which I think is a strategy by the state to have less people apply for this grant. So,
All right. Thank you so much again, Melissa, for being here. We are going to be heading right into the planning and action meeting. So, Christy, roll call, please.
Mr. Jim Bard. Mr. Mike Carey.
Here.
Mr. Levi Kressler.
Here.
Mr. Darren Donovan.
Here.
Dr. Nathan Goetz.
Here.
Dr. Michael Lyman.
Here.
Mr. Fred Scott.
Here.
Mr. Kurt Noggle.
Here.
Mrs. Steph Eberly.
Here.
Mr. Arian Gaunkar. Ms. Lily Kell.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we begin our deliberations this evening, let us once again be reminded of our duty to represent all of the children of this school community, regardless of age, sex, race, or creed, and regardless of need or ability. This meeting is being live streamed and uploaded to the district's YouTube channel. May we now have a moment of silence to reflect on our thoughts, plans, and actions on behalf of the students of the Shippensburg Area School District. Mr. August, are there any changes to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Fred Scott, make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Donovan. All in favor?
Aye.
It is time for the first citizens' comments, and there is none. Our student representatives are not here this evening, but both of them were at the awards ceremony, and both were awarded scholarships, and Miss Kell actually got a full ride to Dickinson by Dickinson. Only one Cumberland County student was offered that, and Miss Kell was awarded that tonight. So great night. More to share on that later. Board committee reports, Dr. Donat. I'm sorry, were there other committee reports? I didn't see that there were any
No,
listed.
we have
Okay,
enough
moving on to,
committee.
sorry.
Good evening, all. So, 3 things for you today. First is to remind you that the PSSA administration for English Language Arts begins tomorrow. It will be tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then next week, we'll be doing the math PSSAs for the younger grades. Our kindergarten registration numbers as of today at noon is 186 students. And we have another kindergarten registration day on April 30th. And then the next thing that I have for you, at the last board meeting, you had asked for a better understanding of how curriculum is developed. So that's what we have for you today. Go ahead, Leslie. Oh, I have it. Never mind. Maybe.
You moved it back. Try clicking.
Yeah. There we go. So what is curriculum? So curriculum is defined by the state as a series of planned instruction aligned with academic standards in each subject that's coordinated and articulated and implemented in a manner designed to result in the achievement of the proficient level by all students. So what I wanted to point out for you is that it's planned instruction. And it's definitely, like, our mandate is it must be aligned with the academic standards. It has to be coordinated between grades, between classroom teachers, and it needs to be articulated or published. So, and that we're aiming to make sure that all of our students can accomplish those standards at least the proficient level. So that's what we're trying to design, is a course of study that allows students to be proficient. So when we look at what the standards are, the standards are benchmark measures that define what students should know and be able to do at specific grade levels. They pretty much function as state regulations of what we have to teach. And those are what the basis of all of our curriculum is. If you ever want to look at what the standards are, they're publicly available. The website is in this presentation, and you can look and see the depth and breadth and how it evolves with each academic year that the students progress through their public education. So that means our responsibility as a district is that we have to design curriculum to provide all students with that planned instruction necessary to attain those academic standards. And we need to develop assessments and provide evidence that the students acquired the knowledge and that they can apply that knowledge. So basically, we're looking at what Mr. August would call the freedom within fences. So we can do more than what the state standards specify, but we can't do less. Those standards are the minimum performance expectations of every school district. Where we have freedom is how we arrange and coordinate and deliver and assess that learning. That's us up to each local level. So that's where our freedom lies. Questions on that so far? So think about it as standards are your destination. So it's where we're going, but the way in which we get there can definitely vary. So think of it as a trail map. There's lots of different trails. It's how fast do you want to go? How quickly do you want to get there? How long do you want to hike? How steep of terrain do you want? What do you want to see along the way? Maybe you like to go on a hike that has waterfalls. Maybe you just want to get there and get back because you're time crunched. But this is where it's that flexibility of picking your own path. The end result stays the same.
And I would just jump in to say, you know, we do this within an umbrella of best instructional practices.
Yeah.
So that, you know, when we work with our teachers, it is what are the best ways to teach math? What are the best ways to teach reading skills? You know, so those factor into those trails. It isn't just, you know, that's that freedom within fences, but those fences within those fences are the best ways to do things. Our teachers have the skills and the knowledge to be able to make those instructional decisions in the moment and plan out that path for our students.
Right, so the curriculum reflects how our teachers have decided to bundle these concepts and the content and then build the student knowledge base. So the teachers are those content experts thinking, this is the best way we know how to ensure students can grasp this concept in a way that is of interest to them and in a way that allows them to go deeper into content in the next academic year. We keep trying to provide them a foundation from one year so that they can be successful in the next year.
Can I ask a quick question? So our teachers know what those best practices are based on both their education and then their
Our ongoing professional development and the things that they do for their own learning and what the district is providing. It's an ongoing conversation, and I think the biggest example of that is, the reading wars. Whether it's the balanced literacy versus structured literacy. That raged for years, and some research came out and said this side, structured literacy, is researched to be better, and so our professional development has been directed in that way in order to move the system.
Yep. So this is a multi-year process. So we start with the teachers drafting the curriculum based off of those standards. We bring it to the board for their review and hopeful approval. Then the teachers, we publish it through our website, and teachers then get the opportunity to say, let's put it into practice. So that happens the next year. Teachers will be putting the curriculum into practice that you're approving this year. Then as they're putting it into practice and in the subsequent years, they are constantly evaluating it and thinking about how it needs to revise and change based off of changes in best practices, based off of how students respond to it. Maybe we plan something and it doesn't work, so we need to find a new way to deliver it so that students can be more successful. So when is curriculum rating completed? And the answer to that is never. And that is with good reason. So we're constantly refining it to better serve our students, to better serve the community. Current events end up becoming history and needing to be taught. Scientific and technology accomplishments continue to evolve. There's workforce needs and training needs that continue to evolve that we have to adapt into our curriculum. And the Pennsylvania Department of Education reviews these academic standards and the state assessments every 5 to 10 years, and then they update their standards. So that's why this is a continuous process. So how do teachers actually do this? They start with the standards, and then they're looking at what are our long-term transfer goals. That would be things like the standards and the profile of a graduate. What's the skills and knowledge necessary to be able to do what those standards state?
And I'd just jump in. That would be called unpacking the standards. So these standards are broad, and they require some unpacking as to what skills you need to be able to obtain that standard. So it's like a backwards design type situation.
So a quick example for that would be a 7th grade science standard is to be able to discuss the relationship between abiotic and biotic factors in an ecosystem. Well, what does that actually mean? So they have to unpack that, and then they have to say, how will students understand that information? How would we teach that? And that's where that training, that ongoing professional development comes in, is we look at how do you do phenomenon-based inquiry in science to better resonate and fit with students in the way that they learn. So from there, then we're looking at what's that product or performance that reveals students actually get it, that they can understand it, that they can apply it. It might be a project. It might be I'm trying to think of something that they could do. It could be a performance. It could be a product. In some cases, it's an essay. In some cases, it's a research situation or a test. They have to develop those assessment measures. And then they think back, they continue that backward design of saying, okay, to be able to do that project, what do students have to know and do to be successful in doing that specific project, and how do we teach students those skills to be successful at that? So that's what you're looking at when you're looking at the curriculum in front of you for the 7th and 8th grade science. You're looking at how they've decided to group all of that content for your students. The last part of that is to plan the learning experiences and the instruction, and that's how do we sequence and differentiate the information so that all students can be successful. It's not a one-size-fits-all. We have to figure out how do our gifted students accomplish this, how do our special education students accomplish it, and how do our diverse learners in the center accomplish this. And it's a 5-year cycle that Shippensburg has in terms of which discipline we look at each year. So the current academic year, science has been writing curriculum, so has music, so has art. You will be receiving curriculum from all of these disciplines starting last board meeting throughout the summer, and we'll try to get all of those approved before the academic year starts. So questions for me? That's everything that I have for that.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I was reading that, I get that school board bulletin they sent out. I read it. They said something about pencils and paper. It's going not. Are we eliminating pencils and paper from school?
I think I know what you're talking about. Are you talking about the PSSA testing?
It was part of that.
Yes, so we are not eliminating paper and pencils from schools. What they were referencing, the PSSAs, is a test that the Pennsylvania Department of Education requires us to give to students. It happens once a year, and schools currently have the opportunity to have the option. They can either have students take it paper and pencil, or they can do it online. We have traditionally done it, from what I understand here, we have done it paper and pencil, and in 2 years' time, we must go to online. That's a state requirement.
But that doesn't affect your curriculum.
Does not affect our curriculum.
Do we teach longhand? I don't know if what they call it.
Cursive?
Cursive. Do we teach that at all?
I don't believe we teach cursive here, but it should.
The elementary teachers are shaking their head no, so we're
Yeah,
going to
I
say
think
no.
that was taken out years ago. We teach them printing.
Teach how to print. Guess the checks are getting ready to go out the window. Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
You teach checks?
Very briefly, when students are going to be signing their name in cursive on Friday.
Right, I appreciate it.
Other questions for me?
Thank you, Dr. Danette.
Oh,
How is the process checked to make sure the teacher stays on target and works within the fence? So all the teachers are accountable to that process.
Part of that is professionalism. That's the professionalism of the instructors, and part of it is for the actual assessment of learning. Students, if teachers don't stay within that fence, the students won't perform well on those state assessments. So there is a lot of checks and balances that occur, and their building principals are very much aware of what's happening in those classrooms, that if somebody did a left turn instead of staying on the path, people would know. Yeah. Other questions?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for this. I think it's important that we understand the academic side of what we're overseeing here.
Yeah, and I would encourage you to go on that website where all of the standards are published to understand and to see for yourself the complex learning that our teachers are delivering and that our students are responsible for learning. Education has changed a lot, and you'll be surprised at how complex of a task it is to meet these standards.
And there's nothing really more powerful than a teacher at a grade level who knows their standards and knows what to teach and what not to teach at a certain time. It can be really efficient, and it's even better when they know what the next grade ahead of them, where they need to get them so that they can do the next grade level beyond their own.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Just want to hit the account balances in our activity funds. For the senior high, $102,953.99. That's a big number. It's buoyed by our drama club, from the musical, and we just had the mini-thon, so a little bit higher than normal, but there's a reason why. Similarly with the middle school, the musical drama money's in there as well. $41,916.91. SACE, $11,153.71. James Byrd, $6,511.73. Nancy Grayson, $11,826.31. And there's backup documentation on that. Like to run through our donation report. Thanks again to our generous sponsors. Lunar Waves Wellness, a donation of $100 towards the Minithon. GW Cumberland OP Company, monetary donation towards Minithon of $250. Here's Looking at You, monetary donation towards Minithon of $100. Hickory Ridge, towards Minithon of $100. Marston Law Offices, a monetary donation of $100. Levine Enterprises, McDonald's, with a $200 donation to the Minithon. Shippensburg Area Intermediate PTO with a donation to Harry, $500. Folsanger Bricker Funeral Homes, $200 for the Minithon. First Things First Training, $100 for the Minithon. And Shippensburg Lodge, 2,500 Loyal Order of Moose, $500 towards our FFA. Our Minithon raised $26,000 in its first year, which is quite an accomplishment. And kudos to that group. And just a reminder of that last one, FFA donation. The May 2nd FFA banquet, board members, if you have an opportunity, that's a very great evening to hear the great experiences our kids have. That concludes my report.
Moving on to the consent agenda, item 4A, we have approval of minutes. 4B, the finance report. Those reports are attached. 4C, we have policies for the second reading and approval. Item 4D is the 8th grade science curriculum. Item 4E is the Shippensburg School District and the association agreement for the summer school classes. And item 4F would be all of the personnel items. I do want to highlight that we do have a resignation, Miss Elizabeth Kunkelman, a learning support teacher at the middle school, and that is effective the end of the school year. Is there a motion to approve item 4A through 4F?
So moved.
Second here.
Motion made by Mr. Carey, second by Mr. Scott. Is discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to the action agenda, item 5A is the organizational chart. Administration recommends approval of the attached organizational chart. Is there a motion to approve item 5A?
Let's go make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Lineman. Discussion? All in.
Did make a little tweak based on last week. Just added some more detail.
What was it?
Who evaluates the counselors and another group. We just detailed that out, because the meetings are facilitated by another person. So we just clarified that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5B, the 24-25 proposed final general fund balance. The administration is recommending the 24-25 proposed final general fund budget of $71,492,736 and expenditures with projected revenues of a little more than $68 million, which is requiring the use of $3,449 in general fund balance. $300 is from the committed fund balance for the 7th grade teaching position, 1.7 from the committed fund balance for retirement and PSERS, $406,000 from assigned fund balance for future capital projects and debt repay, and $1 million from unassigned fund balance. Projected revenues include a tax increase to Shippensburg Area School District's adjusted Act 1 index of 7.1%. The numbers can change between now and the final general fund budget adoption. The proposed final budget will be made available for public inspection at least 20 days prior to the adoption of the final budget. The board will tentatively take final action on the 24-25 final general fund budget at the June 10th Planning and Action meeting. Is there a motion to approve item 5B?
So moved.
Motion made by Dr. Goetz. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Lyman. Discussion?
I wasn't here last budget meeting last month because I was on a trip. I looking at got a copy of the budget. It says under recommended new personnel requests. Did y'all pick out any positions in here that you wanted to put on? Just letting us know that that's what you want.
Those were the requests from the buildings and admin from a much larger list that we honed down to what we believe were completely essential to run our programs and buildings.
Will there'll be another list before the final budget?
Sorry,
Will there be another list before the final budget?
This is the list that we are putting forth now. I mean, if there's changes to be made, we would need those, to be added to the final budget. So right now, Fred, this is what's here, unless there's direction to add additional or cut.
I'm looking at recommended new personnel requests revised. Is that the last final thing? All these people are included?
Those are in the budget, yes. So it's a mix of special ed teachers, and kindergarten teachers, or not kindergarten, but elementary teachers. Let me back up, Fred. So there are special ed positions in there that we will need to have, or we will be out of compliance to serve students' IEPs. Okay, so those are must-haves, and then the other big personnel items are 2 additional elementary teachers to deal with class sizes at Byrd and Grayson. So without those positions, both the subsequent grades would have class sizes averaging 29 in each. So by hiring these teachers, we get that number down to like 24. Don't quote me on it right now, but without those elementary positions, we will have 29 kids in some classes at our elementary levels and certain grade levels.
I don't want that, but I also know December, January, we were contemplating laying off ESSER teachers, right?
So we've worked the plan for ESSERs that we're bringing those folks back into the budget, which is kind of like a double whammy. So those are the positions that we need.
Yeah.
What's not maybe articulated as well within the budget is it 8 positions, 9 positions that we're bringing back from ESSERs that we're using grant money for that have to come back into the general budget. Yeah. Okay, so double whammy in that we're growing across a variety of different areas that we're slowly adding on to deal with, and we have to bring all these positions back on. Okay, so it becomes a difficult budget when you have to do both of those things.
Well, I understand that. I would like all these positions here. I mean, I like to have them all. I have hesitation because one minute I'm told we don't have money for peak positions. Next minute we're hiring a lot of teachers.
So out of the ESSER's plan, which I'll be detailing to the board here shortly, you'll see that any attritions will be minimal. Okay, we've worked hard to not have any personnel lost out of the ESSER's transition. Okay, so we've done pretty well in that area, and I'll be sharing that with the board, and then having those conversations with individuals through May. Okay.
Okay. So I don't. Okay. The assistant business administrator. Why is that crossed out?
So that was originally in, and then I calculated the class sizes at the elementary, and had to make a value decision in that moment, Fred, knowing the large deficit that we're facing. I prioritized a teacher over that position, although we need both. And so I wanted to make sure we were taking care of the classroom first.
Mr. Scott, I don't know if you have a moment to listen to the last board meeting or the budget and finance, because a lot of those questions that you are referring to, there was a more like in-depth discussion and answers around those. There is definitely more discussion to come regarding some of those because we're still, questions, concerns, and nothing is final.
That's what I want to know is what I'm seeing here is not final. That's why I want to know, are we going to look at things? Are we still going to look at things, or this is it?
So unless directed by the board, this is what the recommendation is. Okay, so these are the positions we felt were absolutely necessary, that we could not do without for the upcoming school year.
Always, I have no problem with the teachers. I've never voted against a teaching position, but I'm sort of getting disheartened by the fact that always the teachers and administrator positions are always filled. The people at the bottom seem to be secondary. And I'm not.
So Mr. Scott, you'll notice in the budget that we've added several custodial positions, and we've added a maintenance position as well.
Lots of dietary positions as well.
Yeah. So to your point, I would argue that we haven't. We're trying to get more help across the system. In a tough budget year, but we did prioritize getting more help for our custodians and maintenance departments.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Mike Carey.
Yes.
Mr. Levi Kressler.
Yes.
Mr. Darren Donovan.
Yes.
Dr. Nathan Goetz.
Yes.
Dr. Michael Lyman.
Yes.
Mr. Fred Scott.
No.
Mr. Kurt Noggle.
No.
Mrs. Steph Eberly.
Yes.
Motion passes. 5 yes.
So it should be.
I'm sorry, 6 yes, 2 no.
5C, the electricity contract. The district participates in a electricity consortium, which is managed by Provident Energy. Our current electric supply agreement will end on June 25th, and we'll soon be soliciting for quotes and make a recommendation to the district to enter into the next electric agreement. Administration recommends the board of school director authorize the chief financial officer to sign the electricity contract as per the recommendation of the district's consortium's consultant. Is there a motion to approve item 5C?
So moved.
Motion made by Dr. Lyman. Is there a second?
Fred Scott, second.
Second by Mr. Scott. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5D, administration recommends that the board of directors accepts the donation of the van from Boyo. Is there a motion to approve item 5D?
Fred Scott, make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kressler. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5E, the multipurpose stadium project, add stadium lights. Mr. Fred Scott recommends approval to have administration investigate the expenses and required authorizations for installing lights at the upcoming stadium construction. This exploration aims to provide essential information for a potential decision regarding the installation of lights. With this approval, the board approves any expenses incurred but not exceeding $5,000. Is there a motion to approve item 5E?
So moved.
Motion made by Dr. Lyman. Is there a second?
Fred Scott.
Second by Mr. Scott. Discussion?
So I have been in contact with the borough to let them know that our board is headed in that direction, and I've reached out to K&W to begin this process of finding the number for us to be able to find out, the actual costs. I've gotten a little ahead of this one.
We're just having it investigated as far as the expenses and then waiting on.
Right. So bring it together. Here's the proposal to do the next phase. Here's the cost as we would know them, so that we can, the board can consider those. Understanding what Dave Jones said at our last meeting, the requirements that are already on us.
This will include any requirements at the borough.
Well, it starts. We know what the requirements are. It's just going to be fulfilling those requirements, and really getting the cost of the lights and the installation. Thoughts of obviously, as we've said before, the mystery number is the parking requirements, but it allows us to start what we would call phase 2.
Superintendent, could you get a definite parameters for the parking? No traffic study. For the traffic study, it's what I know state and do that when they do traffic studies to put the rubber strips down the road for weeks.
So I'm not sure I understand completely. I think it will be some kind of combination of counting cars and watching traffic flow. But we can't do that until football season, and likely the largest attended game that we have, or the heaviest attended game that we have, which would likely be homecoming. So the borough's going to want to know what's the maximum maximum number of cars that would be at that site. So at the very least, we would not know that until September or October. It was when we would be able to do the traffic study. If it's still required of us.
I would like to know is they're going to do it on one specific game?
Yeah, one game.
Well, what about when we do we pick the game or do they pick the game?
So generally with a traffic study, you do the game that is going to be most heavily attended. They want to know the worst case scenario for parking, in traffic.
All right.
One quick question about that, and I understand the looking for the most highly attended game, but at the same time, like in my mind, go ahead.
So I don't want to speak too quickly. That was my assumption that they're going to. They have not required that, but talking with the engineers, it's my assumption they're going to say, what is your projected highest attended game?
Yeah, I understand that, but at the same time, I would think like it would make sense to also do like a JV football game on a Wednesday, so you can see like at high end isn't always like that's like 5 times, and then all these other uses might be like 200 fans because not as many people go to a JV game on a Wednesday night or a middle school game.
So I believe the borough has all that information already. We spent a lot of time gathering crowd sizes and ticket sales to give them in order to get the original project approved.
It'd also be a really great year for the town to commit to carpooling. And
it is Earth Day, I believe.
And walking. And or riding bicycles, absolutely.
Agreed, Dr. Goose.
Show that, we're better than our cars.
We can't get kids to walk to school.
I believe there's a motion yet.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to the discussion agenda, item 6A, we have the Sam's field trip to the Lurgan Avenue warehouse. 6B is the field trip for the math challenge at the CAIU. 6C is expulsion waivers. Item 6D is the 6th and 7th grade science curriculum. 6E is the Shippensburg Area Educational Support Association for the extended school year. 6F is the Constitutional Public School Funding Resolution. 6G is the Shippensburg Area School District Resolution for the Public School Facility Improvement Grant for James Byrd. If there are any clarifying questions, please contact administration prior to the next board meeting. Moving on, we have the citizens' comments regarding non-agenda items. Is there anyone that wishes to comment on a non-agenda item? Before we head into board comments, I wanted to invite Ms. Susan Fink up here to talk about tonight just a quick update of the amazing award scholarship ceremony, please, if you will.
So I sent out multiple invitations to people to attend tonight. There were 65 children and students of this high school who, I'm going to get choked up, and thanks to those of you who did come to see. But we gave out over $2.5 million tonight in scholarships and award monies. And that's from internal and external institutions and benefactors, and I couldn't be more proud. The people in the audience were crying. That is an amazing moment in a child's life, in a family's life, a caregiver, their circle of support, whoever was there, because not all of them have families. And I think we gave out tonight 7 full-ride scholarships to Rensselaer. If anybody knows, the Polytechnic Clinic gave out $160,000 to a young woman in STEM from our high school. And she excelled and was at the top of her class. We gave out 5 or 6 Hale Family Foundation full-ride scholarships that pay for everything. I mean, you already know this, right? I'm telling people that already know what this is all about. But it was a really special moment, and I think the delivery of the event, Levi, thanks. You were sitting in the back. I saw you up there. It is about creating an excitement for the families and the students. I was asked to be the MC quite a while ago, and I said, absolutely. And as you know, I'm verbose, and I get excited. Because it really does matter, right? I mean, the delivery matters, so that when you're a mom or a dad sitting in that audience and somebody is talking to you with tears in their eyes and your heart's pounding because it's such an amazing moment, I think it was felt by many. It was a really exceptional night tonight, and next year we're going to make it even bigger and better. How's that?
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a great night. Board comments. Mr. Donovan?
Yeah, give a thanks to Mrs. Akers for pulling off the 3rd annual Career Day. I actually got to participate in that a little bit. It was a really cool event. We had over 50 speakers and companies in attendance, from very large companies to local small business owners were there to kind of speak and talk about their companies and career opportunities. Also heard that there were some other districts kind of check in on what we were doing, so that's really cool to see Shippensburg kind of take the lead on that. And I think that we're going to continue to grow this and make this event even better for years to come. I guess another thing, I'd like to throw out an idea. Don't really want to make a motion or anything tonight, but just to get a discussion going about possibly adding a budget and finance committee to this board. I feel like might be something pretty valuable for us to get a better understanding of our numbers throughout the year versus just having a few meetings throughout the year. I think it's knowing our numbers and having a balanced budget is the second most important thing we do as board members. Having a good superintendent and then having a balanced budget. So I just want to throw that out there. Open to any feedback or whatever anybody else wants to say to that. That's everything I have tonight. Thank you.
Dr. Lyman?
I think I'm going to be quiet.
Mr. Scott?
With a quick jump. I like the presentation of the girls, the children with the Smarties. Not like a whole lot of work, and I commend them for that. I know I couldn't do it, but I have not a question, Superintendent. Can we look into the swimming pool for? Right now, we made an amendment for all the gymnasiums and everything, for them not to be charged. We look into the fact that pool runs 24/7, no matter if anybody uses it or not. We charge them for our students for using the swimming pool. even though it's aquatic club, they're our students.
So I believe, and maybe Mrs. DeLong has worked a little bit with the aquatic club. We charge them the same fee that we charge anyone, and you remember, Fred, we reduced that. So we're following that new matrix and trying to get them, as at the lowest possible cost we can do. I think our fees are minimal. They cover the heat, the lights, like pool chemicals and things. I mean, but not any different from any other group that uses it.
Well, my concern is whether we use the pool or not, we put chemicals in it. Whether we use the pool or not, it has to be circulated and everything. Just understanding, like basketball, when they use the gymnasium, it's empty, it's closed. Pool continually run. If we.
So we're charging the same fee to SEA as we are to the aquatic clubs for use of our facilities, Fred. And there was a time when I came on that fee was very high and kind of prohibitive.
I was one of
and this board, or the previous board, worked to get those fees down.
I agree. I know. I'm not questioning. The kids have no other pool in the area other than people that can afford to build their own pool, and if you can't afford to pay for the aquatic club, you're left in the cold. For me, it's important for the children to have an opportunity. If the pool wasn't open and it was shut down and we had to open it up and everything, but that pool runs 24/7. We put chemicals in 24/7, whether it's used or not.
Yeah, I'm committed to having the aquatics club use the pool as much as they're able to. I think I agree 100% that the more kids we can get involved in all programs, particularly that one over the summer, I'm in 100% agreement. We did change policy to set those numbers.
Fred, are you suggesting have the pool open just for the community to use
community and the aquatic club? They teach our kids before they get to high school. There's a big gap from elementary school to there. We have the electric going to run, chemicals going to run. I can understand if requiring them to have insurance and having a lifeguard. Make it for the community. I have no problem with the community. Just sitting there.
Yeah, Fred, I mean, certainly we can explore, ways that
please?
we could do that. I mean,
we did recently reassess those fees when we revised the policy when it came around SEA, so those costs are less.
Fred, I think I maybe can get costs for lifeguards, like if we were to have an open community, have our pool be open during the summer for
Park and Rec could use
folks
it.
to come up, use it. There will be costs to the district, for lifeguards and other.
No. We ain't paying for no lifeguard. If you want to use it, you provide your own lifeguard. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for facility to be available, and then they feed off of what we want.
So I believe we have that in place, Fred.
Okay. I just talked to some people, and they expressed that they would like some financial support, and some kids in the community are not able to afford the aquatic club. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing. One more thing. Are we going to ever understand? Is the elementary schools the future, or the high school and the middle school the future?
So I would say the high school, middle school is the now. That's the project that's coming up. The GISA is out for bid. The board will have an opportunity to review and hopefully approve. Well, they've already approved the GISA, the GISA bids for that. So to answer your question, high school, middle school is now. Once that's complete, then we turn our attentions to the elementary.
Okay.
Mr. Carey?
Just coming in and working with you all is hard to beat, but I got to say, when the classes come in here and give their presentations, we've had the FFA, the logos, the robotics, the bands, the Smarties. It is just a ball watching them.
Mr. Carey, I am strategic, and I know that the work that board members do is often thankless, and that is why it is critical that you hear the things that are going on in our schools and the experiences our kids are having.
Watch their faces light up when they talk about it, what they're learning, their group activities, their bonding with kids. I mean, that is just fun to watch.
Yes, sir. I would 100% agree.
Mr. Kressler?
Sure. So I know we've talked about it maybe twice already, and Sue just came up and talked again, but I was there tonight. Our two student representatives for the board, as Steph mentioned earlier, both received scholarships, $2.5 million, a little over that in total. It was awesome. So as I sat there tonight, I reflected on everything, and I thought seeing all those kids be rewarded for all of their achievements is just another reassurance that as a school district, we continue to pump out successful young men and women who are going to be valuable members of society going forward. So congratulations to all those kids tonight who were there, including our two student reps. Outside of that, real quick, the track teams, I had that they participated in the Pan Am Invitational. That was, since we met last, Eric Lynch was first in the discus. Grace Patillo, Cody Cella, and the girls 4x18 all finished third in the 400 meter for Patillo, Cello for the javelin, and the girls 4x8 was third. Katie Shope was fourth in the 3200 meter. Marissa Connor was fifth in the 100 meter hurdles. Rylan Asper was fifth in the 3200 meter, and Alyssa Turn was fifth in the high jump. Cody Wenner was sixth in the javelin. Jolene Patton was sixth in the girls pole vault, and the girls 4x14 was sixth. Finally, Aiden Keach was eighth in the long jump. The girls 4x1 was also eighth. Baseball team went 4-2 since we met last as a board. They actually avenged an earlier loss in the season at Greencastle. They're currently 10th in the power rating with the top 16 teams making the playoffs, the top 8 getting to host a playoff game, so they're right on the edge of getting to host a game. Softball went 5-3 since we met last. They're currently 11th in the playoff ratings, again with the top 8 hosting. So we're right there that we might be able to host some playoff games here with a couple successful weeks to close the season. And that was all I had.
Thank you. Dr. Goetz?
So I too was excited to hear from the student groups that presented, and listening to the band students talk about their experience is really terrific. I've long sort of advocated, I'm not a musical person at all, and I didn't do band, but it's clear to me that band is like the ultimate high school and college hack. If you want to have a good experience and a built-in friend group and lots of positive activities like play an instrument and join the marching band. It's a great way to sort of make it through school. But the larger point is it just speaks to the importance of engagement, of finding something for everyone. And when we find an activity for every student, something for them to get excited about, be it, marching band or the gifted program or sports or whatever it is, and it speaks to the importance of us providing the resources for faculty and administration to create the activities that will get students engaged. Students need something beyond what's in the classroom to help, make their experience fulfilling. So I appreciate that. And along those lines, I appreciate my fellow board members for having the bravery to approve this budget. It's not the final approval. I realize that's still yet to come. But it's a hard thing to do to approve these budgets, and especially to make these difficult financial decisions. And approve a deficit budget too is also not easy. But it's clear to me that that it's the right decision. So I appreciate y'all's bravery. Thank you.
Mr. Noggle?
Call
Highlights of my evening, is when the students do get in front of us, and I appreciate their families and their teachers for bringing them, and for their teachers meeting them here. And I know I've mentioned it already, and I want to mention it again. We can turn on our phones and turn on our social media, and you'll always see, something that the district isn't doing right, or you can see negative stories. But tonight's award ceremony was Shippensburg's night to shine. To see 7 kids, they received full rides, but to see the relief on the families' faces, that financial burden, I needed tissues when I was there because it was so emotional. Tonight was Shippensburg's night to shine, so remember that whenever you get on social media and you can see negative things that we're not doing, but tonight, like, we were reminded of what we are doing, and you saw it when they came and they speak to you and they speak to us about all of the good things that they are doing and what they are experiencing. So I just want once again thank the foundation for their invaluable partnership in supporting our students in their academic journey, and just to congratulate all of our deserving seniors again. And that concludes, actually, no, it doesn't. Date savers. April 25th, Transportation Committee. May 1st, Safety Security. May 7th, another Planning and Action. May 8th, Athletics. And May 16th, Facilities. And April 17th, there is an Act 80 Day with a 2-hour early dismissal. And that concludes this evening's Planning and